The following is a transcript between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am, originally produced on March 3, 2021, under the constellation of Pisces, in the mental week, examining through the third eye. Me. When you said yesterday that the Piscean consciousness is like a wise child, I got to thinking about the way that children understand the world, the way that we learn to recognize it from the times we are children. Through play, fun, discovery, and something that amazes me even more is that most of what we see as children is not real, but imagined. That is, when we observe things with the child's mind, everything is a magical adventure. Anything can become the subject of imagination, of creating a story with the mind. I remember seeing bricks and playing with them as if they were a castle or a ship. I remember seeing a tree and thinking it was a city and insects lived there doing incredible things. I remember feeling that the moon was talking to me, or that every object in my house had a life of its own and communicated with me, so I was never alone, from the towels in the bathroom to the dining room table. The living room became a landscape of the world, and the sofa was a ship. Pencils were space rockets, and the edge of the sidewalk in the street with its flagstones could be cliffs of strange planets with unique geographies. When we grow up, we tend to lose this capacity for imagination, and we start to rely on what we know about the world. A slab, a sofa, a table, a moon, a tree become just that. Simply a slab, a sofa, a table, a moon, and a tree. It seems a bit sad to me. I am. In reality, you are still imagining things, but they start to become more complex. A child is learning from matter. He is just arriving in this reality, and therefore his consciousness is able to mold it, because he is still living in the subtle, but experiencing the matter, playing with the metamorphic capacities of matter. When you become an adolescent, you begin to mold the soul, the energy, and you begin to use your imagination to develop different options to what you live, to idealize people, to feed illusions, building emotional stories. You already know the matter. You no longer are excited by it. Now you're excited by people and what you feel for them and what they provoke in you, falling in love, getting excited, fantasizing. When you are an adult with more than 28 years, and you have already met many people, you have already related various aspects of the soul, and you know what it all means, and you are no longer excited about the soul, and you lose the magical interest that you had about people, and you begin to focus the mind to move forward in life, to have purpose. And you're excited about faith, belief, philosophy, power, control, intellectual pursuits. You get excited about what you can innovate in your life and achieve with projects. Until you get out of the mind and you begin to live old age, getting excited about matter again, recognizing that you are on the way to leave it, and you get excited to play again. And you find yourself being able to do new things, to know new places, until you get excited again with love and with relationships, with feeling something, to the end of life with the illusion of imagining what will happen later when you are already gone. Me. So it is as if the illusion and the imagination never leave the human. They just transform. They go from one level to another. It's just that we live in a separate way, like abandoning the former. I am. The human problem is that he considers the past stepped on. The human believes that if he has already lived something, it is no longer useful, and as if it were not a record of his experience. When you ride a bicycle as a child, you will always know how to ride a bicycle, no matter how old you get later in life. And maybe you will never pick up another bicycle and ride it again. Maybe you use motorcycles, cars, airplanes, and yet this does not mean that you cannot one day pick up a bicycle and ride it. The human concept that what happened is past and is no longer useful or necessary or even considered childish to take it up again only separates potentials, limiting you. A person who is open to use a bicycle, a motorcycle, a car, a boat, a plane, or whatever, is a person who expands, who sees the infinite potentials and the path that his being is capable of tracing, creating, and experiencing. In the same way, an adult who is capable of illusion with his soul when falling in love and imagining the infinite possibilities, walking through an airport imagining that it is another planet, and when he is traveling between worlds and dimensions with extraterrestrial companions, and at the same time nourishing himself with that imagination to build a social project that produces illusion, is a multidimensional being. Me. That's what they say, to see the world with the eyes of a child. I am, and when you are a child, look at the world as a child. And when you are a teenager, look at the world as a teenage child. And when you are an adult, look at the world with the adolescent adulthood of a child. And when you are old, look at the world as an adolescent adult living the old age of childhood. If you live life stage by stage, abandoning the previous one, you will not gain the capacity for expansion, but will limit yourself to your new way of seeing the world. Me. I must open myself to the options. I must add them up as if they were one. I am, for the universe is a constant of choices that are one, and this is the key to the second dimension. Me. I understand that the second dimension is that which is composed of lines and dots that form a drawing on a single plane without depth. That is, like a cartoon on a television or a drawing in a book. I am. That's right. That is what Dimension 2 is all about. It arises at the moment when Alpha and Omega, being the northern and the southern hemispheres, positive and negative, of a point in the first dimension, separate, projecting in opposite directions, creating a line, but which in turn, in its new nodes, create a new polarity, which also extends, seeking to close the image to find balance. A polar axis by itself does not have balance. It needs to close the circuit, and thus you can obtain a closed polar image. In simple words, from a line, you get a square. Me. In the first dimension, we call it a line. In the second dimension, we call it a square. And in the third dimension, we call it a cube or a hexahedron. I am, exactly. And in the fourth dimension, you call it a tesseract. And in the fifth, convergence. And in the sixth, foundation. And in the seventh, manifestation. And in the eighth, process, and in the ninth, realization. Me. Wow, I did not expect that. I am. As you will see, the first dimension is the one that gives the most freedom, for beyond its polarization, a line can be used for the manifestation of any other type of figures. be it a triangle to gestate a tetrahedron, or a pentagon to gestate a dodecahedron. However, it is the second dimension that provides the basis for the realization of everything else, which determines the following patterns. Me, and what is that? I am, because the second is where you find consciousness. The second is that one that gives you the idea of the rest, the one that shows you the basis of imagination. Duality is a generator of probabilities. Your mind, polarized on the axis of the first dimension, gives rise to the intention to be, to move for love. And in the second, it incorporates the soul, the articulated movement, the magical intention. So, think of cartoons as you said. They are an imaginative manifestation, the embodiment of dreams, the basis of illusion. Part of the game of creation. Think of the cosmos as a child, a girl, who decides to move in circles, spinning in her room like a dervish in constant circles in which she sees the world around her changing, understanding other forms of herself, idealizing reality, imagining a new one. Drawing, strokes, are the basis of all art, whether it is poetry to trace a word from its first letter, or sculpture to trace the initial design from plaster or rock. The lines form the neutral connections of your soul, shaping the perceptions of your environment, schematizing it, but at the same time giving you the freedom to create the foundation of the infinite. Me, something so simple ends up being something so beautiful. I am. Each line is a process that you draw in your walk. Your two eyes observe this dimensionality, which is traced in your two hands, in your two ears, in your 2 feet. You are a dual being, constituted by patterns of duality. Your presence in the third dimension is due to the basis of your second dimension, and there you find the basis of your imagination. Each process you live is a path traced in the illusion designed by the second dimension, in which you position yourself at point X to advance to point Y, designing the paths through illusion and imagination, because point Y is the illusionary mirage of yourself. It is an image that needs to be completed with your experience. For this reason, you should not abandon the previous step, but add, because only in this way will you be able to obtain the whole, complete image. Me, the imagination that creates the patterns, the illusion that determines my life, is not, then, a prison of the mind, but precisely that which allows me to expand it. I am. I know that you have lived conditioned by the reality of the third dimension, in which you have heard phrases such as, "Do not live by illusions. Stop imagining and live reality. Put your feet on the ground." But the truth is, there would be no life, no reality, no ground without imagination and illusions. Everything is a holographic illusion. So if you really want to live fully in this reality, you better dare to imagine and illusionize. And in doing so, you will find the unconditionality of the soul, which manifests from dreams that can be. Me, unconditionally loving what I am capable of imagining, projects unconditionality into the world I live in. I am. Sometimes utopias become reality only if you dare to live your dreams, tracing them step by step. Me, I imagine, and the illusion becomes life. I am. Awaken the dreamer that lives in you.